Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia man. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Kaleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on Fans First and as part of and on millions.co. Tonight we are doing part 2 of the Big Ten SEC Challenge for football. We are going to get back to fixing college football probably next week. Now that my travel schedule.
In some ways, this would help us fix college football, though.
It would. Yeah, my travel schedule is kind of leveled back out, at least for potentially the next 4 months.
Nice.
Maybe trying to talk my boss into sending me up to Cincinnati for some stuff in August. But only partially because that would be at the same time as a Cincinnati Reds homestand. You know.
Gotcha. I mean, not a bad time to go.
Yeah, I as a baseball fan, if you tell me I need to go somewhere for work during the summer, I am gonna do my best to go to a baseball game there.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, it's just a part of it.
But it's been a while, man. How have you been? What are you drinking?
Well, I'm just drinking some water tonight because I'm not hydrated enough today. Yeah, I'm just kind of coasting along. Masters is coming next week, which means we get spring break because nothing else happens in this city during that time. So I'm just waiting to get through tomorrow because once I get through tomorrow, there's a 16-day stretch where I'm only working 3 days, and I just gotta get there. I've needed a vacation for a long time, but it's gonna be interesting tomorrow because we got to get everything prepped for everyone being gone and for
not being
giving all of our stuff to
house.
Yeah, well, we're gonna spend a few days in the mountains. We'll be out of the house then, but to make it easier and cheaper on ourselves, we are doing our mountain trip the practice round half of the week and coming back just in time for the actual tournament to start. So we will probably be quarantined at home for the rest of that weekend, but it is what it is. So, but I'm just looking forward to not working for a little while. We haven't done a proper vacation in a long time because I just work too much and enjoy it too much. But it's time for a break. It's time for me to just take care of myself. So how have you been?
Good. I spent the better part of this week fixing other people's mess ups at work. And by other people,
my whole job, so I get it.
I don't mean people in my company. I mean, like, so 2 days of this week, I spent fixing where the fire department used a fire hydrant wrong in a suburb of Savannah.
The fire department used the fire hydrant wrong.
Yep, that is correct. I will not call out the suburb of Savannah that did it, but I spent 2 days of this week doing that, and then a different fire department may or may not have done something incorrect at the airport that I had to go fix over the last 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so fire departments. Fire departments are good at putting out fires, fighting fires, if you will.
Yeah.
Fire departments do not do fire protection, and I really wish they would stay away from fire protection and work on fire fighting.
Yeah, because unless you're in California, you got a really good thing going with the firefighting.
Yeah. And just it took me a long time to get the licenses that I have to do what I do for the state of Georgia as far as fire protection goes. And firefighters don't have the time or ability to get those. So they don't know what they're doing. So when they enter my domain they break things that I have to fix.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish they wouldn't.
Right.
Like you walk in, you see my tag there. Every fire department in the area has my phone number. Call me. You have a question? Awesome. I would love to get you to not break my stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to. If they were smart enough to know to call me instead of breaking something, probably wouldn't be firefighters.
Man, I feel you though, because like I'm not going to get in specifics about what departments within my department are doing certain things, but when I've got a tool that's working really well for what my side does, and a different side of the department wants to use the same tool, it would be nice if they didn't just break the tool for me
Mm-hmm.
in the process and leave me cleaning up
Mm-hmm.
their mess all the time. I get it, man. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 No, heads and tails are on different sides of the coin for a reason.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
I'll leave it there because I could go, man, y'all want to do an hour on fire protection and why everybody needs to stay in their damn lane? I could do
Yeah,
it.
and then we could follow that up with IT security practices and well,
Yeah. Like
move it.
man, this is not 285. We need to stay in our lanes here. Like once you're in it, you stay in it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I got a caffeine free Diet Coke here. I've got yet another long day ahead of me tomorrow, and not entirely work related this time.
Mm.
Um, but we're gonna get into some baseball talk here before we get into SEC Big Ten Challenge Part Two. So the Dogs have a tough challenge this weekend in Austin, playing the number five
Hang on.
Longhorns.
Did I just time travel back to October? The Dogs have a tough challenge this weekend in Austin.
Maybe, but I don't.
I
What was Texas ranked going into that game?
think they were number 1 or 2.
I thought so. Okay, so
Yeah.
not number five.
So we probably flipped rankings, to be honest with you. Well, no, because
Yep.
Georgia's 3. They should be 1, but they're 3.
Yeah. That is a phenomenal argument, but we're gonna skate past that for now. Um, if Georgia continues to do what they've been doing and continue to not move up, I feel like that
We're
is
gonna
a
have some problems. We're gonna have some
right. I
problems.
think that is a great conversation to have in the next couple of weeks. But for now, I get it. Um, but number five, Texas Longhorns playing in Austin this weekend. The Georgia Bulldogs. Texas is coming off a midweek loss to Texas State.
Ooh,
Um, and for those of you that are not familiar with the geography of Central Texas, Texas State got on a bus, rode anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour north, depending on traffic. Beat Texas,
probably got a nice check for the trouble too.
probably so. And then just got on the bus and rode home. Like that's how close Texas State and Texas are.
Yeah. What is it about these orange and white SEC teams losing midweeks to a small school in their state right next to them?
Um,
Couldn't be us.
I would imagine it's just because they're not good or not
Yeah,
as good as they are supposed to be. Just
that's that
yeah,
seems like a possibility. I know what I said about this a couple of weeks ago, but there is a pattern.
yes.
I'll
I will say it's Georgia baseball schedule wise this year has lucked out.
yeah.
They don't play. They don't play Tennessee this season. They've got this. They got this series. They play Arkansas at home, and they play Texas A&M at home. Texas A&M infamously went from number one to unranked in the month of March for the first time in
Yep.
college baseball history.
Fun stuff.
Yeah,
Their
and
coach, by the way, is in Austin right now.
yes,
Just to remind everybody.
not we're not talking about the one that like a week ago tried to fight Kentucky's head coach for using the SEC's rules against Texas A&M, which just slightly dipping our toe into that pool.
Yeah.
When these teams take charter planes, that rule is completely irrelevant and should not be around.
Yeah.
But with that
Regardless.
rule being around, I would have abused the hell out of it too.
Yeah. Can't blame anybody.
You're telling me I give up 5 runs in one inning to go from a 10-run lead to a 5-run lead, and I got to stall for 10 minutes to win the game,
Okay.
buddy. I am stalling.
Yep.
I might,
You're a communist dictator from Russia?
man, I might pull an Urban Meyer and have a heart attack on the mound. Like, oof, I smell toast. My left arm hurts. Like oh.
Yeah. No, I would have done the
And,
same thing. The rule is there. Why not use it?
yeah, it'd have been one of those. I'm looking down at my watch, and it's 4:30. I'm all right. Y'all get off of me.
Yep. It's like a professional wrestler locking in a submission hold. Somebody grabs the ropes. I'm going to hold it until the referee hits the 4, and then I'll let go. If you're
Yep.
giving me the time, I'm going to use it.
Yep. I will say this weekend is probably going to be it is going to be the toughest test of the season for Georgia. Georgia, as much as I don't like to put it like this, is lucking out. Texas is going to be without Max Bellew. 100% a guess on how to pronounce that last name. Bellyu. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year last season for Texas. He's out for the rest of the regular season and probably a regional with a broken thumb. He's second on the team in batting average and leads the team in OPS, which is on base plus slugging percentage. So top 2 guy on their offense. Going to be without him this series. And then Texas does have an elite pitching staff, being third in the country in cumulative ERA. But Georgia does have a 318 team average. And they're leading the country in home runs with 79 home runs in 30 games. Just an elite offensive performance for Georgia. If realistically, Georgia wins 2 out of 3 games this weekend, playing number 5, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Georgia sweeps Texas in Austin.
Oh, I've got a note about it.
Should absolutely be number 1 in the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have to agree. First of all, shout out. Georgia did in the midweek beat UC Berkeley by 20 runs, which is absolute. Yeah,
UC Berkeley?
They played UC Berkeley in the midweek, right? Isn't that who they played?
No.
What? Who'd they play?
Queens College?
Queens is I saw Queens and I just thought that like, oh, that must be like UC Berkeley must have changed their nickname to the Queens. It just makes sense for them. Okay, gotcha. So they beat somebody by 20 runs. Is the point I'm
Honestly,
trying to make.
with a name like Queens and, being, just the neighborhood in New York, you could assume they beat the Mets by 20 runs as well.
That's probably true. Okay, so it's the college in Spider-Man's neighborhood. Gotcha.
Correct.
All right. So anyway, but yeah, doing some research for this, you talk about Georgia lucking out with the baseball schedule. They did luck out with the baseball schedule. Can we talk about the fact that when I was doing research to make this point, I went through just about every single sport on the calendar for Georgia, went through their schedule. You want to know how many times they got Texas at home?
0.
1 in a sport where they played a game at each spot.
Which
Every
was...
single time. I don't remember. Golf. It wasn't golf. Maybe tennis. I don't know. Something like that. One of the very minor sport. But point being, every single time there was a sport where you're just getting one site or one series, It was in Austin between Georgia and Texas, which has me
What?
stroking
The
my beard
SEC
and
tried to protect Texas their first year in
no.
the SEC? No.
I will say though, it hasn't gone very well so far because if Georgia wins this series in Austin, it'll mean we beat Texas in Austin in all three of the major sports. So no pressure, baseball team. But technically, if you lose this series, you failed to accomplish something that our basketball team accomplished. Which no
Which is,
knock against the basketball team, they made the tournament this year, but
it is
y'all are better
difficult
than
to
that.
fail to do something that they did.
Exactly. So now I would love to go 5-0 in Austin in the major sports. That would be fantastic. I don't have that expectation because this Texas team is very good. But I also didn't think Georgia was going to win the football game by 2 scores either. So you never know. It'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool. It would be pretty cool. But I will settle for a series win, which should, if there is any truth and justice in the world, at least put Georgia ahead of Arkansas in the next set of rankings. They would have the same number of losses. You could argue that Georgia's got the far more impressive strength of record at that point.
I would agree with that, but my honest to God, my bigger gripe is actually that Tennessee is still number one.
Oh, mine too. 100%.
And I say that because Tennessee lost to East Tennessee State, who Georgia beat,
Mm-hmm.
and Alabama, who was either unranked or in the 20s at the time of that win.
I want to say 25 was the ranking. I mean, you might as well not be ranked.
Right. So, so just a roundabout way of saying Tennessee has two unranked losses this season. Now, to be fair, Georgia does as well. Georgia had a loss to a team that hosted a super regional last year in Kentucky,
Yep.
and a loss to a team that made Georgia's regional last year in UNC Wilmington.
Yeah. Good teams, in other words.
Right. And then has proceeded to sweep multiple ranked teams since that point.
Okay.
Tennessee
Uh, go. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Continue. They haven't
Tennessee
done
has not
that.
done that. And as far as Georgia and Arkansas, I, to me, that should be a 1 versus 2 series in a couple of weeks instead of a 2 versus 3.
Yeah. Now I will
Because
say, uh, they just to fact check real quick. Alabama was ranked either 12 or 14, depending on which system you use when they played Tennessee, but they won the series. Has
Tennessee did.
Georgia? Yeah, no. Alabama did. Alabama won the series. They lost 2 games
Oh,
to Alabama. So, has Georgia lost to a similarly or lower ranked team, lost a series? That's a trick question because Georgia hasn't lost a series this year,
nope. No,
period.
they have not.
Which is baseball undefeated as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, I do think the baseball rankings have a little work to do. Um,
Yeah.
but there are also some teams out there, Florida State and a couple of others that believe
Hang on, I
Georgia
might be
shouldn't.
looking at the wrong season now that I look at that because it showed games against Georgia that we lost. So let me redo my fact checking and I'll
Okay,
get back to you in a
okay, because
second.
I thought they'd only lost one game to Alabama,
You're
but
probably right.
no, I
I
mean
had
Florida
the
State is mad as hell that Georgia's ranked ahead of them at 3 versus Florida State being at 4 because Florida State has better pitching numbers, similar but lower hitting numbers,
Hey, they
but
were
they don't
actually
play in
ranked
the
10 to
SEC.
12. Alabama was ranked 10 or 12. So,
Okay.
okay, fair enough. But they also lost to East Tennessee State that week. So,
Yep. Yep. No, I do think it should be honestly one. I think Arkansas should be number one,
that'd be fair. I wouldn't argue with that.
but I really think 2A and 2B should be Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah. Tennessee with the B for sure.
Yeah. Losing to multiple lesser teams, I think is just the way that should go. But if I was a king for a day, things might make sense.
Yeah. Isn't that what fixing college football is all about?
It is something we hope to get back to next week.
Mhm.
And I actually, while driving around fixing fire department mess ups over the week, I've thought of a couple ideas that I think we could make into an interesting, potentially once a month series moving forward
Hmm,
with fixing college football. So
nice.
we'll talk about that behind the scenes, but don't let me forget because I thought of some cool things to do with that today.
Looking forward to it.
All right, SEC Big Ten Challenge Part 2.
Hmm.
Once again, if y'all didn't listen to Sunday's episode, go back and listen to it. But we are doing SEC versus Big Ten. Look, making matchups with the starting at the SEC's number 16 team versus the Big Ten's number 16 team, and going up like that through the rankings until we get to the SEC's number 1 versus the Big Ten's number 1. The way we did this is the team that finished the regular season with a better record gets the home game. We have theoretically placed these games at the end of 2024. Both teams are 100% healthy, and it is a game the week after conference championship week. So a lot of theoretical going into this, but just trying to put some
Look, it's talking season, y'all. Theoretical is what we got.
It is, but we tried to actually put some legitimacy behind these hypothetical situations to make it make sense, make some fun conversations about it. And at the end of this, honestly, hopefully, have a conference that we think is better. And I
Yeah, gee,
know,
I know who I think it is.
right. We do have to talk about this again. The Big Ten has 18 teams.
So
Purdue
sorry to
and
Northwest.
Maryland
Oh, Purdue and
need
Maryland. Northwestern made the cut.
Right. Yep. Purdue and Maryland need to play each other or practice or give up football with the seasons that they had. Just like go sit in the corner and think
Yeah,
about what you did, kind of thing.
yeah.
Just not good.
You just think about what you did. You guys get relegated to the MAC. This is what happens here, and then we
Uh,
move on.
Northern Illinois got something to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
They beat the they beat the national runner-up.
the national runner-up that beat multiple Big Ten teams.
Yeah, and the SEC champions.
Yep, we were going to avoid that, but you brought it up.
Well, okay, fair enough.
Um, we are going to go ahead and get into these games. We're talking about South Carolina at 9-3 in the regular season versus Minnesota, finished the regular season 7-5. So this game is going to be in Willie B, going down to Columbia.
This one's not fair, is it?
No, no, this is absolutely not fair in any way, shape, or form. South Carolina wins this game 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
A healthy South Carolina team, a healthy zero opt-outs South Carolina team. If we're being entirely honest with each other,
Lenora Sellers makes those McDonald's helmet wearing boys wish they were never born. Let's be real.
but also a healthy, not opt-out, stayed healthy all year South Carolina team finishes third at worst in the SEC this past year.
I'd be scared. We've said it multiple times. We were very glad they were not on home schedule because they probably would have won.
Right. So we're talking about a South Carolina team that should they have not lost Lenore Sellers for the LSU game and had a healthy Lenore Sellers for the Alabama game, probably makes the playoff versus
Probably plays Texas instead of us, by the way, in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean they probably would have been 11-1. It would have been
Yeah.
11-1 versus 11-1. And Georgia would have been going up to Ohio State for that first round playoff game.
Don't like that.
Nope.
Don't like that.
Nope. But then we're talking about that South Carolina team playing a Minnesota team that 98% of the country did not know went 7-5.
Yeah. They made a bowl game, guys. Apparently.
Like ESPN sent a reporter on Selection Sunday to Columbia because there was a shot they made it in versus a guy that wears a quarter zip and a tie to every game because he ain't putting the work in. You know what I mean? So to me, this is extremely easy. And we got, I believe, Mike, I know you're not here recording with us right now, but we're gonna count on you to keep track of the score. Um,
Hmm.
I believe this is 6-3 SEC.
I'll check on the notes real quick. I don't know if you had it from last time, who you had
Okay.
winning in it, but
The
I
only
will.
one is I think I switched and put Wisconsin over whatever team. There's one that I switched last week while talking about it.
Hmm.
But I believe we're at 6-3 SEC over Big Ten. Um, and we're going to talk about this next one. We're talking about some very creative branding between these two schools. Lots of yellow, lots of black letters, lots of M's. Ohio State is terrified while we're having this conversation.
Yes. Both have a tendency to beat Ohio State when they shouldn't. That's true.
Yep. We're talking about 9-3 Mizzou playing 7-5 Michigan. So this game's going to be at Mizzou. Um, but I will say this is another game like a couple we talked about earlier on that Sunday episode. I feel like it's very affected by the time frame of the game, and because the way that we set this hypothetical up, it is late in the season with healthy teams. I think Mizzou struggles much more with this game being late in the season because it took 11 games for Michigan to figure out how to play football. It
Yep.
took 2 games for Mizzou to figure out or to forget how to play football. So these teams went in opposite directions throughout the season. Um, but we're talking about Michigan beating Ohio State, theoretically then going to Mizzou to play this game, to then turn around and go play Alabama and Tampa. We know how 2 of those games went.
Yep.
I think I'm going to say Michigan probably wins this one, but just to
Yeah,
try
this
and
this this one was one of the closest ones on this list to me. For that reason, because like Michigan, we talk about this being the end of the year. This is when they beat Ohio State, but Michigan didn't look great even at the end of the year.
no.
So, that was more of a case of Ryan Day being Ryan Day to me. So I also agree with you. I lean Michigan, but like if this game were to actually happen and Missouri beat them by 3 scores, it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't, but it also would not surprise me for Michigan to win this game 13-10.
Yeah, 10-6, something like that. So, quick question about last time because I
Yep.
don't remember. Washington and Arkansas.
Where did we say the
Did
game
did we
was?
just? Yeah, that was. Yeah, I was gonna ask where the game was because it's not listed here, and that was a big factor in your notes here.
I think it was a Fayetteville game.
Fayetteville game. Okay, so
Yeah.
this would put after the Michigan beating Missouri, this is 7-3 to the SEC so far.
7-3 to the SEC. And
So two wins clinch it.
to be clear, I feel like we should probably go in a different order then.
Yeah, yeah. We'll build up some suspense.
All right, so we're stopping here. We're going to the top. Um, and by that I mean we're going to the 2 champions playing each other. Georgia finishing the season 10-2 versus Oregon finishing the season 12-0. This game obviously being played at Oregon.
A big
Um,
deal. That is a big impact.
it is. The environment huge. The weather, playing a game in Oregon in mid-December, huge, especially for a Southern team. Um, if we're being entirely honest,
Georgia doesn't win this football game.
Georgia does not win this football game. We watched the way that Georgia played last season. We watched the way the offensive line struggled to run block. We
Yeah.
watched the way the offensive line struggled to pass block. We watched with the way that the defense struggled to stop the run.
Yeah.
Do any of
And
those three things make you think that they're going to beat Oregon in Autzen Stadium?
and by the way, the fact that everybody's healthy doesn't help in this
No.
situation because none of the individual players or the team as a whole were that really good when they were healthy unless they were playing against Dabo Sweeney. And even
Yep.
then, it wasn't what we'd come to expect either. They just,
Yeah.
did the defense lay down at Clemson in
And
that case.
and a big thing with Georgia is, suspended players. Do we have Colby Young and Ra Thomas? I don't know if it matters.
I don't think it does. I mean, if we have Colby Young, he probably doesn't try hard enough to catch a game-winning touchdown pass.
Do you think Branson and or Roderick make a difference in this game?
Probably not, because they weren't making much of a difference when they were in the few times they were. I think Branson was out pretty much the whole season, but I just don't think it
I think
happens.
they make
I think
I think they make a difference. I don't think they make a big enough difference.
yeah, not enough of a difference, and I especially believe that because Carson Beck is still the quarterback for this team if everybody's 100% healthy, which
Yep.
means if the rumor and innuendo is to be believed, guys like Oscar Delp are still checked out.
Yep.
Regardless. Toxic people are still toxic people even when the whole team is healthy. I'm not at a place where I'm going to blame all of the faults of last season squarely on Carson Beck's shoulders.
Carson wasn't defending the run.
Yeah, for sure. Carson wasn't dropping balls. There are things you can do, and I also think just like even if you don't like the guy who's throwing the ball to you, you should, for the sake of the team, give it your best shot. And so the guys that didn't, that's on them. So I'm not going to take it any other way than that. Carson was a problem too,
Right.
a lot of times, especially in these big moments.
Right.
So
You can't grow a good garden without good soil. But you also have to have sunlight and water and everything else.
Yep.
Missing one factor of a championship team doesn't make you not a championship team. Just makes it more difficult. When you're missing three factors of championship team, you're not a championship team.
Yeah.
That's what Georgia was last year. So
yeah, our head coach was Kirby Smart, which means that we won enough games to get us in contention and give us a chance.
Yeah.
But they're not beating Oregon, especially not in Eugene.
No.
I don't think they beat him in Athens. So
no. Yeah. So we're both taking Oregon there. So that makes it
7-4.
7-4. And the next game we have.
You want to go ahead and get another obvious one out of the way in Alabama and Ohio State?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So Alabama
to...
and Ohio State. I don't think this is much of a conversation. I don't.
It's
think
in Columbus based on the records. Well, I guess they had the same record. No, Alabama went 9-3.
Yep.
So yeah, it's in Columbus. I don't care how many times you throw to the 17-year-old.
Yeah, I don't care if this is week 1 or the week after the championship games. Ohio State is not just winning this game. Ohio State's winning this game worse than they beat Tennessee. Because at the end of the day, what did Tennessee do in that game? They slowed the run. That might have been the only thing they did. They did
it.
I don't trust that Alabama team to run the ball, to slow down the run. I don't trust that Alabama team to pass the ball, giving Ohio State's pass rush. And I don't trust them to stop the pass, given Ohio State's wide receivers. This would be an embarrassing game for the SEC.
Yeah. If this game happened week 1, the Kalen DeBoer left off right off where Nick Saban left off, talking points would just be completely dead. Right away.
This game happened in week 1, the way that it would have happened at the end of the season, multiple Alabama players hit the transfer portal and redshirted last year.
We're talking Marshall levels.
Yeah, yeah. When you get straight up embarrassed, like
Yeah.
like your
But
parents are taking their jersey off of your name
yeah,
halfway through the third quarter, kind of thing.
yeah, that's exactly right. Man, I'd love to see that. To be fair, Georgia loses this one also in kind of embarrassing fashion.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But because it's Alabama we're talking about in this one, I get to revel in the joy of it a little bit, which makes me sick to my stomach to revel in the joy of Ohio State beating somebody. But who deserves it more, aside from maybe Tennessee?
And and so the next games we have to talk about LSU versus Illinois in Death Valley. The where that game is makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
We
agreed.
have Tennessee versus Indiana in Bloomington. And we
That's a
have Texas versus Penn State in Austin.
that's gonna decide it.
Right. Because I think a lot of people, especially SEC homers, are just going to say that LSU and Tennessee win those two games.
I don't know for sure. I don't know that Tennessee wins in Bloomington because a lot of
No.
Tennessee's biggest wins, pretty much every big Tennessee win in the last few years has come in Knoxville. This would be a big game. Make no mistake about it. Indiana made the playoff. Indiana got as far in the playoff as Tennessee did.
So I also want to emphasize one very, very important stat going into this game. Indiana, after they played Ohio State, after they played Notre Dame, two phenomenal rushing offense teams.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana finished the season 13 games, ranked number one in rushing defense, averaging 80.2 yards per game allowed.
That's interesting. Does Tennessee's offense rely on the run game at all?
Very, very, very much so.
I would say,
Ten,
what happened when Tennessee faced a Georgia rush defense, for example, one that had been a little leaky that year?
uh-huh, yep. So Tennessee, 225.8 yards per game, 34 rushing touchdowns throughout the season. Tennessee was ahead of a few teams that a lot of people know as really good rushing teams. We're going to go just right off the top. Air Force, a triple
Hmm.
option team.
Yeah,
Tennessee had more rushing yards and rushing touchdowns than a triple option team. And they're going to go to the number one rushing defense in the country with very similar to weather as Tennessee faced at Ohio State.
yeah,
And I know Tennessee fans travel. I don't think it matters.
yeah. I don't either.
Like I
I
think
am partly saying it just to make Tristan Smith cry, but guys, Indiana wins this game.
Indiana beats the University of Tennessee at the end of the 2024 season. I know. I get it. James Pierce Jr., allegedly a good pass rusher, disappeared. He disappeared for
Yeah.
most of the season. There's a reason he went from a top 3 projected draft pick to somewhere at the bottom of the first round. If we're
Yep.
being entirely honest, Tennessee's defense was based on 3 things: James Pierce Jr., Boo Carter, and good safeties. Where did those 3 things go when they were needed? No one knows. Still looking for them.
Yep.
James Pierce Jr. allegedly was at the game in Athens. Same with Boo Carter. Same with the safeties. We still haven't seen them.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, oh, yeah, that Indiana team had a significantly better rushing defense. But Tennessee's going to beat them. I don't believe you.
I don't see that.
No. And we're supposed to be SEC homers here.
Yeah.
And we've now got it 7-6 with Indiana embarrassing the Hillbillies.
Yeah.
And then we
Yeah,
get into
y'all. We started this podcast, and y'all were like, "Oh, they're just gonna let the SEC win the rest of them, aren't they?" Nope. We're honest here. We're a little biased, but we're honest. We had
and
our homer team lose in convincing fashion. Like,
yeah, that game.
don't accuse us of being
Georgia at
unrealistic.
Oregon's not. Georgia at Oregon might be closer than Tennessee at Indiana,
Or
but that's a
Alabama at
might.
Ohio
Like we
State.
have no idea.
Yeah.
And then, getting into another game, LSU versus Illinois at LSU. The game being at LSU makes a significant difference.
It does.
I don't know if it makes the difference. And I say that because in my head and based on games I watched, Illinois had a good defense. Based on the numbers that I'm pulling up right now, the defense kind of sucked.
Yeah. You're not
78th
wrong.
in passing defense. They are pulling up the rushing numbers now. Um, yeah, Illinois' defense kind of sucked last year.
Yeah.
So just based on that, and I know Illinois handled South Carolina, who took LSU to the end of that game.
Transitive property in college football does not get you anywhere, guys.
It doesn't. But I also think LSU in week 3 versus LSU in week 14
Yeah.
are very,
Very
different
different teams.
I think Garrett Nussmeier is one of the quarterbacks in the SEC that I have the most faith in coming back for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, man, there's something about that LSU team where they didn't lose games they shouldn't have. Outside of that Southern Cal game, very beginning of the season, if they were supposed to win the game, they did.
Yeah.
And I just, based off of vibes and based off of Illinois' defensive numbers being terrible, we're going LSU, I believe.
Yeah, here's I got 2 questions for you that'll tell you who I'm picking this game. Who's better, the 2024 Illinois defense or the 2022 Georgia defense?
22 Georgia.
Yeah, it's not a trick question. And
Okay.
who's better, freshman Garrett Nussmeier or junior, whatever year Garrett Nussmeier?
I would say this year's Garrett Nussmeier.
You would think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
just naturally. Freshman Garrett Nussmeier kind of pieced up that 22 Georgia defense, and that's kind of all I need to know. Like, I get it didn't matter. I get it was garbage time. I would still take garbage time 2022 Georgia defense over this Illinois defense.
Yeah. So that's what?
That's 8-7. So we got 2 games here. SEC wins one of them, they win the challenge.
No, we got 1 game left.
We got 2. We didn't do Ole Miss Iowa.
Oh.
We
So
skipped
then
that one earlier.
It's 7.
Which just saying the name of the game might spoil the winners of this thing. But
all right. So we got the SEC has to win. It's 7-7.
game.
It's 7-7.
It's 7-7. So.
All right, 7-7. All right, so we're getting into Ole Miss, Iowa. This game's going to be in the Grove at Vaught Hemingway. And this is an episode that I really hope we get to do this offseason. It's about Iowa. Because are they good?
I don't know.
I don't either. And I have spent way too much time digging into it, watching their games. Like, at times last year, their defense even sucked. And it's like,
Yeah.
how? How do you keep doing this well when you just generally are not good?
Yeah. They had the opposite problem that Georgia had last year.
Yeah.
Like, Georgia, you've got players this good on your team, allegedly. How are you struggling this much? And with Iowa, how are you playing this well with these players on your team?
Yeah. And
at times, and then other times you were like, oh, there it is.
right. Ole Miss, this year's Ole Miss team, you have to go based on the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And that
There is a
majority of the
world
time,
in which Iowa wins this game.
there is. There was also a world that Florida won that game, and they did.
Yeah.
This was that world. 2024 Ole Miss, and I think I've said this before over on the show. 2024 Ole Miss is the SEC's version of 2024 Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I mean that partially derogatory because it's a backhanded compliment to both teams. Ole Miss should have been significantly better. This was a team of high-paid mercenaries for Ole Miss. Should have made the playoff. Should have probably made the semifinals at a minimum of the playoff. Jackson Dart throwing 3 interceptions to Florida is the reason Ole Miss did not fight for a national title in 2024.
Yep.
But on the Ohio State side of things, Ole Miss was arguably a more talented team than you, and somehow you guys paying more for your players and coaches got you a national title. You're allegedly close to $30 million in debt now.
Yeah. Congratulations.
You won a national title. Just
Congratulations to college football's version of the 2021 Los Angeles Rams. You did it.
except the Rams were a lot of fun to watch.
That's true. That is the difference.
But yeah, no, I mean, if Ohio State had played Ole Miss's schedule in 2024, they probably had the same record. If we're being entirely honest, like Ole Miss didn't have an easy schedule.
No.
Ole Miss played in the toughest conference in the country, and still
Ohio State, in my opinion, they probably beat Florida but lose one of the other games Ole Miss won. Take your pick.
right.
I know which one I'm picking.
I agree with you 100% there. But we're not talking about Ole Miss playing Ohio State. We're talking about Ole Miss playing Iowa.
Yep.
A team that, regardless of the offense coordinator, can't score enough points per game. Regardless of the quarterback, can't score enough points per game. And this year, instead of being, a tight end and running back focused team, they were just a defense focused team. Like the offense was not good in any way, shape, or form, or any version of the word good. I think this is really the defining line of how did you win this many games and good in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I think that was a few teams ago for the SEC.
Probably right.
So we got Ole Miss taking it to 8-7.
9-6, I believe. It was 7-6 going into the LSU one, and we gave it to LSU.
Oh, yep, you are correct.
So the SEC wins the challenge, but we still got one more game to go through. How respectable does the Big Ten make it?
And this is the toughest one for me.
Yeah, I
Because-
saw this one on here and figured, like, what am I going to do with this?
Because I disrespect both teams so much.
Yes.
So much.
And here's the thing. We'll get into it. This is Penn State and Texas. They're playing in Austin. As we've talked about today, that doesn't matter.
No, it does not. Especially if they have nets around the field for blocking trash. Like
Trash
I
is going
don't-
all the way down. All the
Yeah.
way down.
But at the same time, you're asking James Franklin to go on the road and beat what would be a top 10 team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something
He's
James
not
Franklin
good at
has
doing.
done a total of 0 times in his career at Penn State. He has beaten 0 top 10 teams on the road in his career at Penn State.
And yet this isn't an easy one for us because the opponent is Texas.
Right. Like Georgia struggled to run the ball all year until they played Texas.
Yeah.
All of
How's
Georgia's
Penn
points.
State when they can run the ball, by the way?
Yeah, all of Georgia's points in the first game, Trevor Etienne, who
Yeah.
objectively, in a room with the two Penn State running backs, is third by a wide margin.
Yeah. Get no disrespect. That is a compliment to how good those Penn State guys are.
Correct. But also at the same time, you're saying, who do I trust to throw a bad interception more or less, depending on which way you look at it? Carson Beck or Drew Allen?
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
does Dalen Everett play for Penn State? Because that is an important question to ask.
right, like I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man.
Based on the way, I will say this. Based on the way that both of these teams played in the playoff, obviously this game theoretically would be played before the playoff starts. I know that. But based on the way these two teams played in the playoff, taking Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm taking Penn State too. I think the matchup really favors them here.
Yeah.
And Penn State got to the semifinals to me on being a good team and playing really good football. Texas, I think they got it by
what targeting was.
Yeah, and they got hit with, no offense, Clemson and Arizona State as their path to the semifinal.
And should have lost to Arizona State.
Yeah, they should have.
So
yeah, tough call, but at that point in the season, Penn State was playing better football.
Yeah. Yeah. And y'all know us if you're listening right now. This is just as much disrespect towards Texas as it is respect towards Penn State, because we hate both teams.
Yeah, we sure do.
So, like, it is not that we trust Drew Aller or James Franklin or anyone on that Penn State team or staff outside of the two running backs. It is that we don't trust
the two running backs
Texas.
is enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if Steve Sarkisian was a smart person and let Arch Manning be the guy, maybe that would give Texas a better chance, but he's not going to do that.
How many times is he going to fumble?
That's true.
Yeah. And you can't forget that one thing Texas struggled with was their tackles against elite edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State has arguably the best edge rusher in this year's NFL draft class in Abdul Carter to go against the same Kelvin Banks Jr. that Jalen Walker and Michael and Dalen Everett made look like a child in Austin. So
I need to watch those highlights again, by the way. They always make me so happy. That was my favorite point of the season, and I wish we could go back.
Yeah. Would be nice for just have that little bit of hope, especially considering we are Braves fans right now.
Hey, again, it's the 2021 season start, man. It's gonna. Who am I kidding?
You know what? Where's my replica World Series ring? Let me pull it out. I need it. But that's gonna do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram, at FinerPod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Share it with your friends. And most importantly, as always, remember there is nothing finer in the land
than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. Let's beat him in Austin again.